The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So I think we're just going to go ahead and just get started. Get my stuff set up here. Hope everyone's doing well on this fine morning. It's Wednesday. All right, let's see here. All right, so welcome everyone to today's webinar. Today I'll be walking you through the key points and takeaways of this highly effective yet underutilized module. Document Knowledge Transfer with Compliance, or DKT&C, provides a simple interface for managing the distribution, readership, and tracking of required documents while improving consistency and reducing costs and establishing compliance. As OnBase customers, you already have many of the pieces in place to deploy a policy and procedure administration solution. So even if OnBase is only currently deployed in a single department, DKT with Compliance can be quickly and easily extended to every employee across your organization. All right, so what you're looking at now here is the customer care group roster. With us today, we have myself, Paul Kegler, flying solo. But yeah, I like to do this. It's nice to have, like a face to a name. I know many of you work with the CCG on a daily or weekly basis. So just a couple of admin notes before we get started. As usual, your voice is going to be muted. The chat box is available to type comments and questions during the presentation, which I do have open, so I'll see that if that comes in. And then the survey at the end, and then of course all previous webinars are available at that URL. So for today's agenda, we're going to be going over using OnBase to solve problems, DKT&C overview, the look and feel to include what an end user or a DKT admin or your OnBase admins, and then some SLA advantages. All right, so what I like most about OnBase is that it solves problems and enables organizations to run more efficiently. DKT&C is a very straightforward module designed to conquer a particular problem and make the entire solution administratively simple and transparent. So what are the major obstacles that any organization faces when attempting to ensure required reading documents, policies, or legal compliance measures are being distributed and followed? So first of all, there's communication. You need a way to distribute this information to your workforce. Well, you're probably thinking, well, that's easy. I just, email it out. Well, what if this document is an employee handbook or a revision or a complete reworking of your employee handbook, and it's a large file? And let's say you have thousands of employees. Are we really going to bog down our networks with this type of traffic? It's really just not feasible. So secondly, we have tracking. When organizations have these types of required documents, more often than not, acknowledgement that individual employees have received the material is mandatory. HR documents, legal, tax forms, or safety memorandums, or even patient care policies. You need to be able to show that not only was this information distributed, but that the receipt of the material occurred. The last thing an organization wants is an overwhelmed safety officer or compliance manager attempting to track all of this on a spreadsheet or even manually distribute and collect these types of documents back. That is static data and it just can't be relied upon. So another important obstacle that organizations face is end user comprehension. Not only is it important to be able to show that the material has been distributed and received, but if the required document is a safety memo or a patient care policy, you need to ensure that the material is understood and comprehended. This really sets your employees up for, and your organization up for success. So with document knowledge transfer and compliance, all of these concerns are addressed. This policy and procedure administrative tool allows organizations to take required reading documents and distribute them to their entire workforce, while also automating the tracking and acknowledgement of these documents within your company. These documents can be anything from an employee handbook, a computer use policy, or detailed procedures, and even training videos. This organized and transparent tool is a compliance officer's dream, with not only the ability to ensure employee acknowledgement of these required documents, but can also incorporate a comprehension component as well, allowing organizations to stay in compliance and effectively train their workforce. So how does it work? So through the use of reading groups, an administrator, and this can be someone in HR, compliance, someone in legal, or even someone from each of these departments, each owning their own roles and responsibilities within your organization. These administrators can distribute that required reading to the individual employees, and those employees then acknowledge the document. And if this document is something like an image, like a .tiff file, you can even ensure that each page is viewed before that acknowledgement is made. They will be presented with a usage policy or acknowledgement policy that is completely customizable, so you can meet your organization's needs, that states that, yes, I agree with what is written in this handbook, and I agree to adhere to these policies. This can even be taken one step further by having the employees re-enter their password to be able to acknowledge the document, ensuring that the users who leverage, let's say, a shared workstation have each individually acknowledged the document. So the key feature of DKT&C is the testing piece, the ability to track who has received what document and who has yet to acknowledge that information from within your organization. So right here, what we're looking at, that's a good start, and that's most of a solution. But the compliance piece enables you to be in a situation where before a new hire operates a piece of equipment or a new nurse walks into a room with a patient for the first time, that not only have they received the safety procedures or patient care policies, but they understand the information contained within them. You will have the ability to prove that this process occurred, which will drastically reduce the amount of risk that your organization takes on, and be able to enforce individual employee accountability. This allows you to set your workforce up for success. They understand the legal regulations they need to adhere to, or the safety policies that they need to follow that your organization has put into place. All right, so now that we have like a good understanding of what exactly DKT can offer and kind of the concepts behind it, let's jump into what this solution actually looks like from each level. So let's start with the interactions that your end users are going to have within a configured DKT&C solution. So here we can see an example of what the OnBase produced notification could look like, to include a link that will direct you straight to your reading group from within OnBase. This simply states that a new document has been added to my reading group with some additional details about the document itself. These notifications can include deadlines and any other applicable information that you may want to put out. All right, so let's go ahead and just log in as my test user here. And so this employee has just been notified that they have an employee handbook that they need to go in and acknowledge. So once we get all logged in, we can go ahead and navigate to the My Reading Groups. And you can see that once we select it, they have an option of choosing all of the reading groups that they belong to. My test user, however, only belongs to this All Employees reading group. So let's select that. And as soon as we enter our reading group, we're presented with this customizable pop-up message. Your DKT admins will configure this message to be applicable to your organization. Yep. All right, so yeah, we can go ahead and click OK. And here we can see that a document, the employee handbook, is within our not viewed category. So we can go over to that and highlight it. And so if we double click on this document, we'll bring up the viewer. And so in the upper left, we have the actions that our users can take on these documents. They can choose to acknowledge, reject, or to set this document up as a reference. So with reject, they're prompted with a text field asking them to supply what they do not agree with on the document or any other issues they may have. And so then the DKT admin will be able to see all employees who have rejected a document and move forward according with your organization's policies in that regard. So the reference button moves the selected document to the reference category, giving the employee the ability to quickly locate and reference any material from within the reading groups viewer. And of course, there's acknowledge. So once we go ahead and select this, we are again presented with another customizable dialog window, which is an excellent opportunity to input any legal verbiage that may be included in accordance with any internal or external regulations that you may be subject to. All right, so once we attempt to acknowledge the test, we're then presented with this pop-up window because there is a test associated with this employee handbook. All right, so once we go ahead and hit OK on that, we'll be presented with this, some information here. So we're going to have the name of the test we're about to take, any instructions that our DKT admin included with this particular test, and the scoring requirements to be successful with the quiz. All right, so we can go ahead and start this quiz. And we can see question 1, employees are required to wear blue on Thursdays. And you can see that we have a true-false question configured here. So that apparently is true in this organization, so we go ahead and click that. And so after selecting your answer, you hit save. And so from here, we can either select in the lower left here, we can select the next question in line, or we can select continue, and it'll take us to the next question in the series. So let's go ahead and select question 2 here. And so here we can see that we have a multiple select question type configured. So who has the authority to approve time off requests? Your friend from accounting, your direct supervisor, Sean the intern, or your department manager. So we'll go ahead and we'll select save and then finish. Yep, I'm sure. Let's be done with that. Okay, so here we have the test review. Where at the top of the window we can see our total score and whether or not we passed. We can also click through and review the feedback that the DKT admin has configured for each one of these questions. Excellent. So we can finish out of this and hit OK. And we can close out of the handbook. All right, so within your reading group, this employee is able to easily view any of the documents they set up for reference, the fact that they don't currently have any documents that require their acknowledgement. They can see all the documents they have acknowledged in the past and would be able to see any potential rejected documents in here as well. And so that was a demonstration of what a configured DKT-NC solution could look like for your end users. So now we're going to move on to more of a behind-the-scenes look into what a DKT administrator, what their interactions are going to look like. So in this case, it's our HR manager. So we'll go ahead and log in. And so your OnBase admins will set up a user group with the appropriate admin rights for your DKT admins and assign it to the identified individuals within your organization. So our HR manager has been added to such a group. So within the file menu under administration, this user is able to see the DKT administration option. So selecting this will navigate us to the admin portion of our DKT solution. And you can see in the left-hand side here, we have the reading groups, where we can see all the reading groups that are currently configured. And so once we select one of those, you can see in the upper ribbon, some of these action icons have become available. And so let's start here. By selecting members, we can see all the user groups that have been assigned to this reading group. So in this case, I set up a user group called DKT user, which is a user group I've set up as sort of a catch-all. So every employee within OnBase would have this DKT user group as one of the user groups they belong to. And so if we hop into the AP department and check the members there, we can see that we can control the reading groups at a more granular level as well. Different departments have different policies or regulations that may impact them. So you're able to assign these documents out for review and acknowledgement based on who it may be applicable to. So all these users that belong to any of these AP user groups will be able to receive specific policies that affect them. But each of these users also belongs to that generic DKT user group that is set up as well, ensuring that anything you need to put out company-wide, for an example, the employee handbook, will reach these users. So we have the ability to see all the documents that have been assigned to a reading group by selecting a reading group and selecting the Document Admin button. And so here we can see that the All Employees reading group has one document assigned to it, this employee handbook. And once selected, we'll have some additional details. So we can see all the users from within that reading group and their statuses. As I demonstrated earlier, test user 1 has gone in and successfully acknowledged the handbook. Each of these columns can be sorted to bring the most relevant information up to the front to better assist your DKT admins. And so if you notice in the upper ribbon menu, once we selected a document, some more of these action icons have become available. We have the option to send an email to anyone who has yet to acknowledge the handbook. So these radio buttons on the right-hand side add some additional options, as well as a text field for specific information that you would like to include in the reminder email. There's also the option to re-add a document to a particular user in a reading group, or even all the users at once. So we can go ahead and we can re-add that document for that user, and you'll see that it effectively removed the acknowledgement from that user. So our admins will also have the option of removing the assigned document altogether, or even just simply removing the requirement of acknowledgement from that document while still having it be in that reading group. So you can assign documents out there for your employees in particular reading groups, but not necessarily always have to require that they go in and acknowledge that document. So another feature within this DKT admin view is this approval group administration. So if a reading group has been set to allow or require approval, its documents must first be approved by the assigned approval group before documents can be viewed by the reading group members as a whole. So for an example, we can let's set this up in the AP department, and we'll create a new approval group. We'll go ahead and let's call this Department Managers. And so we can set up the approval group and have it require that all members of the approval group need to sign off on it, or any member in the approval group is able to sign off on a document. So yeah, so in this case, let's say that any are able to approve. So really anyone in this approval group can review a document, and once they say that it's up to par, it can then be released to the reading group. So let's select the individual users here. In this case, we'll just have the AP manager. And we can go ahead and, should have hit save there. All right, well, yeah, that's fine. It looks like we just created a blank approval group. We can just, well, I can show you that. We go ahead, and this is how you would remove an approval group. There we go. Okay, so that's just the DKT feature of this solution. So, or more or less the document knowledge transfer piece, the DKT. So let's move on to the compliance piece. So once again, in that File menu under Administration, we see the Compliance Testing Administration. So once selected, our DKT admins will be presented with this compliance admin view. So right off the bat, this View Scoring Reports icon, I wanted to show you the results of that test that we had assigned to the employee handbook. So once we select this View Scoring Reports icon, and we'll select the test, in this case it was version 2, and we'll select all the users. So here you can see all the scores that any user that's taken this test and what they've received. And once again, all these columns, you can filter them, you can sort them to better meet your needs. And then once you have them sorted accordingly, you can export this as an Excel spreadsheet or even view in a graph format, which gives you that at-a-glance view of the potentially thousands of employees within your organization. Okay, so we can go ahead and close that out. Okay, so the compliance piece. So the easiest way to get a good grasp of this is to keep yourself in the mindset of categories. So to break up all the required policies or regulations into categories, for example, safety, or to break it out by department, for example, like AP department. And so if you click through, these are the configured testing categories. And once selected, you can see all the tests that have been assigned to that test category. Super simple. So let's put ourselves in the mindset of a DKT admin. And in this scenario, we know there is a computer use policy that is coming out. And management wants all users to acknowledge the policy and prove their comprehension of the information contained within it. So we're going to need to create a test for the computer usage policy. First thing we need to do is to create a category for that test to fall under. So let's go ahead and select a new category, and we'll call it Information Technology. And we'll give it a brief description here. And then so on this piece real quick before I get to save, well that's fine. We'll call it on the next one. All right, so all right, yep, so here we go. You can see that a new category has been created for our test, Information Tech. And so let's go ahead and add a new test to this testing category. I will give it a name of Computer Usage and some generic instructions. Wonderful. And so now here we can see that we have a certificate option as well. And so we can have the option to have a certificate be generated once the end user has passed the exam. So these certificates are a system document type that our OnBase admins would associate with an XML style sheet that would dictate the look and layout of these certificates. So a certificate with your company's logo stating that X employee had successfully passed the computer usage exam on X date, and so forth. And so now we have the questions of the test itself. And so you can add existing questions. And so like I said earlier, to be in the mindset of categories. So the tests are in their categories, and the questions themselves can be broken out in different categories. So if you click the Add Existing, we'll be taken here, where we can see the current categories that have been selected or created with questions that have already been assigned to them. So we don't have anything kind of information technology related. So we're going to need to create a new category to kind of hold all of these IT related questions. So let's up here in this questions, manage questions icon in the upper left, we can go ahead and select that and new category. And so we'll call it Information Tech again. We'll give it that same description. And we go ahead and select Save. All right, so from here, we can either just build out all the questions that are going to fall under this question category right from this interface, or we can do it from the Create Test window on the right-hand side that we're in. I like to do it from within the test so I can just kind of see these stack. So I'm going to go ahead and do that from here. So create new question. First thing it's going to ask us is, okay, well, select your question category. So we're going to select that Information Tech. And so here we have the different question types available to us. Obviously, true, false, multiple choice, multiple select. But the essay one is an interesting one. So you can present the users with an open-ended question and have them respond in their own words their level of comprehension. So these essay submissions then go to a queue that then requires submission, the submission to be reviewed and granted a go, no-go status by your admins. All right, and then other question options gives you the some randomization features within the individual questions themselves. Later, I'll show you how to, at the test level, you can randomize the order of the questions as well. So let's select a true-false question here and go to continue. And so now it's going to ask for the actual text of the question itself. And you have the option to add, reference material for this particular question if we so choose. And so here in this upper dialog window, if we had, let's say, a multiple select or multiple choice, we could type out those choices, those custom choices here, and just create them and have them added down below in the answers. But seeing as though we selected true, false, we have those, obviously true and false is there waiting for us. So we can highlight it and select which one of these answers is correct. In this case, it's going to be true. So we can hit save and continue on. And so the display feedback option is where at the end with test user 1, who's able to see the feedback after they pass the exam, this right here is where you would configure that. And I mean, that's it. It's super simple. We just created a question for this exam. So we go ahead and click finish. And so from here we could continue to create new questions and make this exam as detailed or as easy as we would like. But yeah, so we'll leave it at that one question for now. We'll scroll down because there are some additional options down here. And so here you can select, the minimum number of, questions you need to get correct to pass, allow retries, set up, practice test features. And then here's that randomized questions I mentioned earlier. So you can randomize the order of all the questions. And then this bottom radio button of randomizing all but the last question would come into play when you say, like an essay question setup, and you want that to fall at the end of the exam every time. So yeah, we don't need that. So we can just go ahead and save. And so now that we hit save on this new test, in the testing category of information tech, we now have the test computer usage that's been created. So in this scenario, we have yet to upload a new computer use policy. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. Yeah, so yeah, we can just go into home and just your basic ad hoc import will do the trick here. So we can select our document type group, in this case policies, and then that'll filter it down to all the document types within that document type group. This one only has one, this policies and procedures. And real quick, I just wanted to note that, that this document type has been configured to auto-assign to these reading groups. And it's a super cool feature. I'll get into it as soon as we hop into the admin portion, the OnBase admin portion of this. So we'll pop in our keywords, give it a revision number, and then a real brief description. Okay, all right, so now let's browse out to that computer use policy. Pop it in there, you can see it, there's your computer use policy in that viewer pane, and we'll select upload. All right, so file has been imported successfully, and because it was set to auto-assign to that reading group, we'll see it in there already. So let's hop back over to that, that testing compliance administration piece, rather. So compliance testing administration. And so now we're going to assign this test that we just created to that document that we just uploaded. And so that we can do that leveraging this DKT icon here. And so first thing it wants us to do is let's select the question category here, information tech. Here's the test. So we select our test category. It presented us with all the tests that we had available. In this case, it was just one, computer usage. And then, so here's all the reading groups available. So we want this one to go to all employees. And then, so there, all employees, once we selected that, it shows you all of the assigned documents to that reading group. And since we just uploaded it and it was configured to auto-assign, it's already there for us. So we can select that, and let's go ahead and assign this computer usage test to the computer use policy. Perfect. And then, yeah, so just to kind of verify what I was showing, we can hop back into DKT admin, and we can select, oh, that's fine. So we can select the all employees reading group and go to document admin to see all the documents assigned. And there you go. Here's the computer use policy. And obviously no one has had a chance to view it yet. But yeah, so there it is. And so that was your DKT admin's interactions within the solution. So now I'd like to briefly cover the tasks that your OnBase admin will be taking in order to set your DKT admins up for success. So we're going to be in the configuration module. So we can get started by creating applicable user groups. So under users, user groups and rights, first we're going to make this super simple on our DKT admins. And we're going to create a user group that'll have all users assigned to it, eliminating the need for a DKT admin to select all these individual user groups and then maybe not be sure that they got everybody for any documents that need to go out to everybody. So we can go ahead and create a user group here. And so for your solution, you go ahead, we could call this all users or something of that matter. But yeah, so for this, we're just call it DKT users. And so the next step would be to select all the available OnBase users in your environment and switch them over to this reading or this user group. And that's it. No additional configuration options or anything of that nature. Just for this, we're just setting up our DKT admins for success by kind of creating this catch-all user group. But so we will need to create a user group that has these admin DKT privileges. So we'll set up a DKT admin user group, create that, and we'll assign it our actual DKT admin. So HR manager and of course manager. And so we'll close that out. And so there's not a whole lot that needs to be added here for DKT either. It's simply we just need to add the configuration rights for DKT or document knowledge transfer. So we can just select the the configuration rights, hop over to the products tab, and there we can see document knowledge transfer, and we'll go ahead and grant that and go ahead and save. And that was as simple as that, super straightforward. So that was all you need to do within user groups in order to set up admins and things of that nature. And so now we need to actually create the user or the reading groups. So under document and then reading group. So here we'll see all the configured reading groups that already exist within our solution. So let's create a new one. How about HR department? There we go. HR department, and we'll go ahead and select create. And so seeing as though that we already have reading groups configured within our solution, OnBase is going to do that nice friendly thing, hey, would you like to just copy all the settings from an existing reading group? Which really makes the administration of this super simple, especially if you're going to have the same DKT admins for everything. You can create these reading groups, makes it real fast and easy. But for this example, we'll go ahead and say no, so I can just walk you through all these steps. And so here we see those customizable kind of dialog pop-up windows that test user 1 saw when they first got into document knowledge or into their reading groups. So they were presented with this usage policy. And then the acknowledgement text is what they'll be presented with when they actually try to acknowledge the document. So like I mentioned before, we put legal verbiage here, or some company verbiage, and some help description and whatnot. So down here we have all of our options. So let's see here. Yeah, so yeah, require all pages to be viewed, require authentication, enable deadline dates and expiration dates, setting up your notifications. All of these options. What it says is what it does. It's super straightforward. So once we select all of our reading group options that we would like, and here's where you can do the approval type for those approval groups. And so yeah, we can go ahead and select save. And so next we're going to set up that what I showed you earlier with that that auto assign doc type. And so this is where it's really key. I find it to be the most useful feature here. So by having a document type created within your solution, that will only be used for these types of policy or procedure documents, you can make it so that anytime a new document enters your solution with this document type assigned to it, it'll get auto-assigned to this particular reading group. So then we can move on to assigning our administrators. So let's grab our HR manager, and we'll go ahead and add them over and grant them some configuration rights. So key note on this one, after you do all these checkboxes, make sure you hit modify, or those aren't going to stay. So same thing with manager, modify, okay. All right, so now we have administrators there. And so notification text is where you're going to configure that layout of that notification email that I demonstrated earlier. So anytime a document has been added to the reading group, we can configure, the subject line, the message of the body. So if we'd like to make it a little more personal, we can go, dear, and then recipient, username, things of that nature. But really, bottom line up front, it's all of that information that we displayed right away. All right, yeah, so that looks good to me. So we'll go ahead and save that. All right, so we made some changes within our solution. So here's those configurable things that I showed you earlier. And here's some little nicer ones other than company usage there. But yeah, so we made some changes within our solution. So we can go ahead, let's reset the cache to ensure that those changes take effect for our Unity users. So we can close out a config. Yep. And so we'll go ahead and we'll hop back in as our HR manager just to verify those changes that we just made. All right, so yeah, so we can hop back into that administration, DKT admin. All right, and there you can see that HR department reading group is there and waiting for us to start assigning members and having our DKT admins start configuring and start leveraging this solution. All right, yeah. So we did a basic kind of overview of what DKT and C can provide to your organization. We walked through what the end user's interactions would look like, some of the steps DKT admins can take in order to kind of push documents out, track it, assign tests, view those scores, and then what your OnBase admins interactions would be in order to set up those DKT admins. So that was really it for the DKT and C portion of this. Next, I did really want to include some support level agreements or SLA kind of benefits that we have out there, because I see more often than not there's several features and benefits out there that are just underutilized. So here we can see a layout of Navient's unique tiered support structure. So of course the absolute biggest advantage of being an SLA customer is the unlimited support. So if you have an SLA, there is no additional cost or fees for any support related activities that occur during business hours. And so while we're on the topic of business hours, with Navient now having an office in Ohio, our normal business hours for support are now from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central. So that's an hour earlier for those of you like me in the Central Time Zone, and an additional hour in the evenings for those of you in the Eastern Time Zone. And so essentially the amount of time spent on support for your solution, if you have an SLA, incurs no cost to your organization. So don't hesitate to reach out. And also don't forget that Navient support is always available and standing by 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Okay, so now the bank of hours is something that our SLA customers always take advantage of. And the majority of them apply these hours towards the cost of a system upgrade. But what I wanted to mention here is that these hours can be used for anything. So, if you want to incorporate workflow into a new department or to solve a unique business problem, you can use these hours to leverage our process, which takes an in-depth look at the way you currently conduct the target business process. and will customize a workflow lifecycle that meets your needs specifically. Or if you're looking to expand on the knowledge of your OnBase admins that they already have, or to learn a new skill set on a recently purchased module, these hours can be put towards training. And this training can be conducted remotely or even on-site. Navient consultants have decades of experience in the implementation and administration of OnBase solutions. So I just really wanted to point out that these hours, at your disposal, they can be an excellent tool, and it can be used for much more than just cutting the cost of an upgrade. So the next big takeaway here are the audits. So now we can see that all of the tiers of our SLAs include a basic audit of your solution. This is the number one underutilized advantage that our support level agreements offer. The basic audit provides the essential information needed to understand the current state of your OnBase solution. A basic audit will identify technical inefficiencies, areas of weaknesses, documents a system map that can be used to aid in disaster recovery planning, analyze the efficiency of the infrastructure that's set up to run your solution, and provides a foundation for effective management decisions. So, and the key takeaway or key piece of information of our basic audits is the recommendations section. So in this section within your solution, we identify, some areas that could use some fine tuning. And often these things are very easy to resolve. For instance, the audit would be able to show if you had, say, 160 different document types configured, but a full 19 of them don't even have any documents assigned to them. The same scenario could be applied to, user groups or user accounts and things of that nature. So whereas a comprehensive audit accomplishes all of that and more. A comprehensive audit provides detailed knowledge of your OnBase solution and environment. Think of it as a deep dive into every detail of your solution, to include maintenance plans on your servers and on your database, and details on potential security risks that may exist. And so the comprehensive audit is something that we like to recommend to occur every 3 years within your solution to kind of, get that more up-to-date touch point, and to really give management the tools and information they need to succeed. And so the last SLA advantage that I wanted to point out is the Navient Custom Report Bundle. So this is for organizations that have reporting dashboards module. So, well, first of all, I guess if you've never heard of reporting dashboards, then I would highly recommend that you browse out to training.onbase.com or to OnBase Community, and you do a search for reporting dashboards, and just be prepared to get blown away. I would need an entire webinar to do this module any justice. I leverage this dozens of times throughout the day. Dashboards reports can be configured to report and display data, not only with information located in your OnBase database, but can be pointed at external databases as well. And so what our custom report bundle is a collection of the most commonly requested reports that we've dealt with over the years. Things that customers have found useful, things, hey, it'd be really nice if we could see, X, Y, or Z at any given time. And so we have pre-built these and can implement them within any solution and any version. These are fully configured reports, reporting dashboards that we offer for our SLA customers who purchase this module. So if you already have an SLA, you're already an SLA customer, and you have reporting dashboards but do not have this bundle, reach out to me or to support or to your account executive so we can just get this taken care of. And yeah, so I really just wanted to cover this. Some of you out there are new to Navient, and I wanted to ensure that you had this information, as well as our long-standing customers. There may have been some turnover and things of that nature. And if anyone would like any additional details or information in regard to your SLA, just don't hesitate to reach out. All right, so that is going to do it for the presentation portion of this. And of course, we have our online resources. Another underutilized resource is that Miss Siegel and the CCG team contributes to our blog. as often as possible. When the new version comes out, pro tips, OnBase admin things, database administration, just kind of all that knowledge that this gained over these years. It's out there, and we have it right here on our blog. So if you need information on that, feel free to reach out to myself, support, or your sales executive. All right. So at this point, do we have? Oh, let me pop this out. So it does look like we already have some questions. Figure out how to pop this out so I can actually read it. All right. All right, so our first question here is wondering if there's a certificate for DKT or if it's part of the OnBase administration certificate. And so I don't believe there's there's not an individual certificate to get certified in DKT. So what I can do is I can send you, there are 6 customer level certificates that are out there, and all the availability to how to get certified, where the trainings are, whether or not they're online, and things of that nature. So I can go ahead and I can send that out. All right, so our next question is, we use Outlook heavily in our organization. Is DKT&C is integrated with Outlook? And the answer, yes, absolutely. Especially anything within, with OnBase and Outlook integration. I mean, that's the greatest thing about OnBase, is that it's that, it's that core foundation that has the ability to plug multiple things into it and leverage it accordingly. So is it possible to delete reading groups that are no longer active? I don't know offhand. I have never had to do that, so I can look into that and get back to you. All right, and then so the other question was, these are provided with the purchase of a tier. I'm assuming, Navient custom reporting dashboards is granted SLA. Okay, we're getting there. Sorry. Yeah, so by these, if you mean basic audits, then yes, absolutely. With Tier 1, if it's a comprehensive audit, there's that 50% discount. Tier 2s and Tier 3s have the comprehensive audit included, and things of that nature. Okay, all right. So does anyone else have any other questions? All right, well, sounds good. And yes, all right, so thank you all for your time today. Of course, always feel free to reach out to support if you need anything. All right, thank you all, and have a great day. Oh, well, yeah, so I happen to have the questions still open, so yes. I am fairly certain that that is true. You would just have to pay the maintenance difference, the difference that would be incorporated into that. So if you already have DKT and need the the C of that, we can do that. Excellent. All right, thank you all. Have a great day.